Beechworth's got two types of really interesting soil. Granite, and we've got the mudstone, which is the red mudstone, or shale or based. And we're sort of right on that change. As you come over near the house, you'll see a little bit of colour coming in where there's a little bit of mudstone, but the rest is granite. The granite always reminds me, when I look back on the Mosel, their wines reflect that stone, the shale that they have there. And so I feel this sort of represents the granite that we have here.
Today, we're excited to chat to Barry Morey, the founder and winemaker of Sorrenberg here in Beechworth. I'm Jason.
And I'm Trent, and we're here on an unfiltered, unapologetically unprofessional wine journey. And we're saying here, Jace.
Our saying is drink more, try more, learn more. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Barry, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
We are in a special location here, and we're loving having this on film. Are you able to describe the room we have here? What is this room?
Well, this is one of our cellars. Basically, I have the Sauvignon Blanc there to the right of me, and our Chardonnay sits on the left here where it spends its second year in. So I call it the white wine cellar, but a few reds get sneaked in here every now and then. But yeah, look, it was built in 1994 we did this cellar, and got about 11 inches of concrete on top and some dirt on top of it. So it's a lovely temperature. Yeah, it's just a nice space to be, really.
It's a great space to be. And we want to dive into the history of Sorrenberg, your journey. Obviously, taste some great wines, which we are huge fans of. But before we do that, we're going to ask the wind-up icebreaker question. So I'm going to hand over to Trent.
Okay, first one, Barry. You must have tasted some fantastic wines in your lifetime. Yeah. Is there a memorable wine that you want to kind of share with us that you've had?
Yeah, look, probably in the early 1980s, I was looking at what varieties we're going to plant, and I must say some of the early cloudy bays, I sort of thought, oh, gee, that's interesting. And then we went on a trip over, and I looked at over to Europe and along the Loire, and we looked at some of the wines around Sancerre, and that sort of got me interested in that, in the Sauvignon Blanc. I love diversity, and so that's where we bought the Semillon in. But originally, we were looking at Sauvignon Blanc. Look, there's always some great wines that we're just talking the other day. Again, I'm on the Sauvignon Blanc theme. That the Mount Mary called the trilogy. That was always the back of my mind.
A person, past or present, they'll love to have a bottle of wine with, and also what bottle would you have?
It would have to be my grandfather, because I'm the 11th generation. The new ones, both Bernard, Cara, and the new generation are 12th. So my grandfather died well before I bought Sorrenberg and started my wine journey. So I'd love for him to...
Based in the Moselle, what would you share with him?
Look, I probably would share a white because he's German.
Yeah.
And I'd say it'd be the Sauvignon Blanc Semillon. They still own vineyards over on the Mosel, and I've presented wines to them when I've been over there, and they make Rieslings, of course, and fairly steely type of Riesling. So I think I'd show them the Sauvignon Blanc Semillon.
Fantastic. Next one. Any unique food and wine pairings you've come across that you want to share with us?
Just recently, I had some fantastic sashimi, and I thought that went well with the Sauv Blanc.
Next one, and last one as well. So people starting to embark on their wine journey. We're kind of maybe touching on the next generation as well. Like, what advice would you kind of give them?
What I actually normally say, if someone wants to get into the vineyard, I think it's great. Like, farming is a fantastic occupation. You need thick skin because there's a lot of knockbacks. You need to be able to cope with bad weather. I think you've got to be very resilient, but I also think you have to be fairly practical too, and be able to nut out problems and move on pretty quick.
Do you think you found that right balance now?
No, not yet.
No, still learning.
No, still learning.
That's the icebreaker questions.
Awesome. And in there, you talked about 11 generations. We want to go back to the roots and where your winemaking drive and skills came from. 11 generations. Are you able to summarize what's the history of winemaking in your family?
Look, it all stems from on the Mosel in a little village called Rail, Middle Mosel. It is. That's actually 500 years of winemaking in that village. which is unbelievable. We went over to celebrate that, asked to go over, so we did. My grandfather came out from Germany. He was the second oldest son, so obviously he wasn't going to take over the vineyard. The oldest son always does. So he had the opportunity to come to Australia and work for his uncle, who had a vineyard and winery in Cosgrove near Dookie in Victoria. So that's where, as a kid, I can remember running around the cellars and playing hidey in these concrete vats. I thought, gee, nowadays you wouldn't be allowed to be confined space, but it was pretty scary because there was no electricity in those cellars. But it was a lovely, lovely place. Anyway, it's on my mother's side. So my father and mother, they were orchardists. So I grew up on an orchard, and like I say, I remember as a kid going to the vineyard and the winery. But I always knew fairly early I was going to farm, do some type of farming, because I love that, the diversity of farming. So my journey really started, looking at where I was going to orchard, be in the orchard industry, and I didn't feel as I fitted in that well. So I decided I'd try a few different things and, tried a bit of dairy farming. And then I met my future wife, and she was working in Wangaratta, and I sort of thought, I need a break. So I moved from Wang and I got a job in maintenance. I applied for a job as maintenance at Brown Brothers. While I was at Brown Brothers, being in I've always worked for family companies. It was a family company, but a big family company. And you go to the smoker room the first day and everyone's got their seats and you look around, there's no seat for me. And so I thought, I'll sit outside with the young guys. There was a few, hipster-looking young guys, not quite hipster, they weren't invented those days, but the nice young guys out there. So I sat with them, and they were, doing the winemaking course in the winery, and I got on really well and really enjoyed their company. And Nigel Sneed was one, Jeff Wilkinson, and of course Rick Kingsborough from Gioconda. Yeah. And so I sat with them. And next thing you know, within 6 months, I said, I'm going to go and move into the winery, and it was great. It was a great family company, Browns. They said, yep, that's fine, So, after another 6 months, I've had to go through cellar door, which nearly killed me, having to get dressed up to go to cellar door. So that was sort of, had to take me through cellar door to get into the winery. And then I started the winemaking course, which was great. I enjoyed that by correspondence. So I fell into it, really, and then it all clicked together. I said, gee, isn't that funny? My grandfather was a winemaker, and his grandfather, and
it feels like Brown Brothers is such an important piece in Victorian Australian winemaking history, because there's so many great people that have come out of that and learned so much from it. You took that experience, and it sounds like I think you've done a bit of travel overseas to further hone in your winemaking skills. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've only done a little bit, and both times is really to see relations and see what they do. But certainly the first vintage I did over there, which was in '83, was really quite amazing. I learning winemaking through I did through Charles Sturt, fairly technical. Yeah, and then you go over and watch some of the traditional making of Riesling on the Mosel Valley. It really astounded me that you can make such delicate, fine wines when you've got juice that's completely oxidised, smells of ethyl acetate, and it ferments up beautiful and green and fantastic aromatics. So that was a real eye-opener for me, that the importance of juice oxidation and how we were learning, you had sulphur, you had this, stop that juice oxidation. I sort of learned that, it's a good part of the winemaking process.
Yeah, and no doubt you would have tasted some good wines. Speaking of good wines, we've got a good wine right in front of us here.
Oh, yes, yeah.
It's the 2024 Sauvignon Blanc Sémillon from Sorrenberg.
You've been talking a lot about Sauvignon Blanc, so maybe talk us through the 2024 vintage. How is it? What do you expect from it?
Yeah, it certainly was a good vintage, 2024. Your cooler, I suppose everyone said it was a bit later, but it really wasn't later, because when we first started, our first vintage was '89, you'd almost know that the first long weekend of March you'd be picking Chardonnay. That's changed a lot Certainly last year we went back to beginning of March to pick Chardonnay, but in some of the warmer years since there's been a shift in climate, we're picking as early as second week in Feb. Yeah, but last year was really good. It was just lovely, easy weather, not a lot of disease pressure, good ripening, good ripening length. And I don't have it on the label, but this wine has a little bit of Sauvignon Gris in it, which not much of it's grown in Australia. So we're trialling a bit of Sauvignon Gris here.
How does that change the blend?
Oh, look, I like the Sauvignon Gris, just the fruit characters of it. It shows a little bit more fruit, less of that herbal and greener character than Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah.
So I haven't expanded the planting. I just did initial trial planting. It's probably about 4 years I've been putting it in. But this year I hope to get enough to do a reasonable a barrel by itself so I can have a good look at it.
You mentioned before that you're a great love and believer around diversity. Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon, I don't know who else does it around this area. Probably not many, if any at all. What kind of makes you kind of think maybe I want to do this type of grape varietal that no one else has done?
The first year I did was in 1889. I just did straight Sauvignon Blanc, but I'd had Semillon planted. It hadn't gone in. And I thought after that, I'm glad I got the Semillon planted because I thought the style was a little bit flabby. It's funny, the Semillon really tightens that style up. The Semillon's picked fairly early, and that first Sauv Blanc, I remember I sold it off. I needed the money to buy barrels for next year, so I sold it off to another winery, not in Beechworth, because there weren't many wineries then, bulk. And he said, oh, gee. And he said, you haven't had enough acid. You haven't done this and that. Oh, yeah, that's all right. Just I grabbed the money. I didn't worry too much. I like that style. We're trying to make that food style. This wine does go through full malolactic, fermented in the big barrels you'll see just to your right, and really just goes in as juice, ferments, and then this was bottled a bit earlier this year, but normally bottling would be mid-November, end of November. And so it stays on fermentation lees just till then, so we don't really rack it until it's time to bottle it, just to build up that middle palate weight.
In terms of the blend, though, are you taking inspiration from like the Bordeaux style kind of whites with the similar blends, or it's your own type of style that you're trying to bring?
It's my own type of style, but I must say the Sauvignon Gris probably came about, I probably listened to too many people in life, but that's how you learn. The Sauvignon Gris came about for a young Frenchman from Bergerac, came through, and he was hanging around. He was a biodynamic farmer as well over there, and he just said, I'd love to see this with a bit of Sauvignon Gris. I said, righto, I'll see if I can get some. And so, I hunted around, eventually there was some in Australia, just bought in, and I hopped on and planted some.
What are you feeling about this wine?
First, I got to say I'm a bit embarrassed because I've got a bottle of this at home, but I haven't opened it. It's the first time I've tasted it. And
I wonder why the sales are dropped.
No,
They haven't drank it.
I wanted to hold on to it for a special moment, but this is a special moment having it with you. As you were talking for a decent 2 to 5 minutes there. That finish was just still lingering in my mouth, and the acidity was still there. It was great. There's like the grassy notes that are coming through, but also there's this great energy that's coming from it. And I think the texture that you're talking about is really coming through on it. It's a great wine.
Yeah, I agree with it. It still has that kind of greenness, Sauvignon Blanc coming through, that kind of, not too overpowering though. It's like kind of like balanced off maybe with that Semillon, but it's very kind of tight acid, but in a good way, kind of coming through. I love that. Again, I think about it with sashimi. It'd be a perfect kind of pairing.
How does it change over time? Like if this ages for another, I don't know, 10 years or something?
Yeah, look, it does age for quite a while. It's it always depends on the years and that, of course. But look, it of course mellows out, and you lose a little bit of those primary fruits in any aged wine. But if you're nice to me, I might open an older bottle after.
Let's be very nice, even more.
Wow, too many difficult questions.
You touched on a point there around kind of biodynamic farming. Obviously, you're very invested in that piece. I know last time when I came in and spoke to Jan and said that you talk about soil health. Like, what does it mean to you, kind of biodynamic farming?
Oh, look. Yeah, to me, I'm a passionate biodynamic farmer. I love the Demeter group. There's some great people in there, and they're all passionate farmers. All different type of farms. And the key thing that keeps us all together is to say, well, soil health. We need to ensure that what we leave behind is improved, or if not, certainly not degraded. And the other thing is, being a biodynamic farmer, or organics would be the same too, you really have to think a little bit outside the square. I feel that it brings a little bit of, you basically have to observe a lot more. You're really looking at things. You're not just doing a recipe all the time. You need to look and observe, and because, we really don't have as many tools in the kit to solve problems, to solve disease and that. So we spend a lot more time in the vineyard, which I enjoy. Probably only 40% of my time outside of vintage, even less than that. Probably 30% of time outside of vintage is in the winery. The rest of it's in the vineyard. Then I feel that the people are happier that work in a biodynamic farm, probably because they got their hands into the vines a lot more. You're not sitting on a tractor,
spraying,
killing something or doing something. You actually are trying to preserve things.
Yeah, you mentioned there's no real cookbook, because I'm guessing every vineyard would be quite different in terms of its biodiversity as well.
Yes.
So there's a lot of experimentation that you kind of do, like maybe introduce something like, I know, chickens or something like that. Does that work?
Yeah. And I've introduced, I've had sheep in the vineyard and decided that didn't suit our place. There was too much pugging of the soil in winter. Yeah, look, we've had, I've tried a bit of mulching, and, again, it's great trying these things, and there's nothing, I always, the guys might say, oh, we should try that. And I said, let's try it. Not the whole vineyard, just a section. And, it is good to be able to try all these things, and you can't get too you trial it once and it doesn't work. Like, it took me probably 4 years to get the compost to where I was happy to continue to do it.
Yeah.
And so you don't sort of give up after the first time. You keep going, modify things. We're always good here, modifying, getting some nice piece of equipment, then just modifying it how you want it. It's just a bit silly, but in some ways it's looking at how it's going to do the best job that you want done.
How do you think that translates to the grapes and the wines that you produce, though?
Because most of our energy goes into the vineyard, I think that's what you see. You see a combination of everyone's energy in this wine. It might sound a bit airy-fairy, but we're all, like I say, the guys all know how I want it done, and I don't want them to do it the same way as I do it, otherwise the wine will be boring. Yeah. They all do it a version of, their own little version of what I want done. And I go down some rows, I say, gee, they haven't done it quite like me. I say, that's good. It doesn't have to be done like me, otherwise you won't get that, you won't get, again, different characters.
And we want to see how that's translating into the wines as well. And so the next one that we have to try is the 2023 Chardonnay. We were doing an episode just reflecting on 2024 and wines that we really enjoyed, and this was at the top of the list. It was like, this Chardonnay is really what made me think and enjoy Chardonnay more than any of the other whites. So very honoured to be trying this with you. I feel like a fair bit of it, the Chardonnay, is around linked to Beechworth and the site. What drew you to this site?
When I was looking, we probably looked 2 years. We looked at quite a few places. We went to Tassie, looked in Tasmania, looked in Mornington, the peninsula, and ended up, I was working at Brown's, and it was very hard to find property up here. Beechworth was a very tightly held place. No one wanted to sell property, but I wanted 40 acres. And so, I had this obsession in my head. Thank God I didn't get 40 acres. I wouldn't have been able to cope with it at that stage. So this property just came up, and it's. I was looking at granitic soil, and I'm very lucky here. I probably didn't realise at the start because I took a few soil samples out further near the forest. But I'm on the changeover. Beechworth's got two types of really interesting soil. Granite, and we've got the mudstone, which is the red mudstone, or shale or based. And we're sort of right on that change. As you come over near the house, you'll see a little bit of colour coming in where there's a little bit of mudstone. But the rest is granite. And we didn't get a choice, but what probably sold me on the place was it was only 12 acres. That didn't sell me, but it had a lovely cellar. And the house, even though it was probably not as, wasn't, I wouldn't say a dump, but it was a bit rough, but it was livable. That's all we wanted. That was the rules. Jan agreed with me. I said, He said, we're buying property, not a house. And we did look at one other place. We had a beautiful house in it. I said, I'm not paying that type of money for a house. We want the property. So I was very lucky. Jan was on board. So we bought it here. Since then, we have bought 2 other blocks down the road and a little bit higher, but they're right on a knob of a hill, and that's Bindara, and we call them, have different names. Bindara was my father's or grandfather's property from on the orchard side, or my father's father, and the other one's called Rhino, which was the name of the Cosgrove vineyard.
Yeah. And so how does the site translate into what we're tasting in the Chardonnay?
Well, the granite always reminds me when I look back on the Mosel, their wines reflect that stone. That's that
blue shale.
the shale that they have there, and so I feel this sort of represents the granite that we have here, and because I see it in the other 2 blocks are even a lot more rock and stuff, and you do see it. They have to me they have more of that elegance without the weight. I think it's also the vine age I've got here at this home block, but also that little bit of change over to the red soil, which also just gives you a little bit more structure.
So this is purely from home block?
No, this is a blend of all those. Yes, yeah. So it's,
I was thinking about why it is that I love the Chardonnay, and it's like the word I was describing it to someone else, and I was saying it was the balance behind it, because you could have some wines where that granite kind of scent and flavor could come through, and it probably be the highlight of what it is. But this is balanced with the fruit. The fruit really shines through as well. It's everything kind of just gels together. Isn't it?
Well, I tell the guys we're here growing fruit, so we need that fruit flavour. Yeah. So I'm not I'm not embarrassed that people see fruit, because that's what I want to grow.
Yeah,
see fruit.
The fruit,
but restrained fruit,
restrained fruit. Yeah, no, that's really kind of sings out, and texture is also the other thing that really stands out through it as well. And it's like white nectarines, but it's like this kind of creamy kind of texture that really comes through on the wine as well, which I love. That kind of rounded texture type of Chardonnay.
Yeah,
but with fruit kind of really holding it together as well, right through the middle. Gorgeous.
And look, it goes through full malolactic,
and that's very much your style as well, though. Is that something that, because that's what you want to drink, that you kind of create that type of style?
No, it's because I don't have a good filtration system. Okay. So I better send it through mailer, then you don't have to worry so much.
Yeah.
So, but in the end, you think like that, and then you say, oh no, it's not a bad style. Yeah. So I'll keep doing it.
Yeah,
I get frustrated if it doesn't go through mailer now, but anyway.
But it goes
through all right, natural fermentation down here. Malolactic just goes on all right.
You mentioned before when looking for sites, you were quite specific in terms of looking for the granitic type of soils. Is that something because you've heard someone that told you that you need to find this type of soil type?
Yeah, of course, Rick was my boss at Browns, and he was very passionate at that stage. He was looking at land and had just bought land up here, and he was talking about the importance of stone and the granite. He thought it was good, and so look, you're always influenced by people. So I thought, oh well, it's
You say influenced, but then I also haven't tried Giaconda, but it feels like it'll probably be a very different style of Chardonnay compared to what Rick does.
Yes, it is, and that's good. We complement. So many of us in Beechworth complement each other with different styles. It'd be pretty boring if we all made the same style. So
I think that kind of reflects what you were saying around. You listen, but also like with your equipment, you customize it. You kind of listen and get influence, but also make it your own. And and maybe that's what's happened with the Gamay as well. This is the 2023 Sorrenberg Gamay.
Gamay was always an interesting one because the Gamay story comes around by just sitting on the veranda having a beer with a mate. And, we're going through what we're planting, and he just said to me, oh, yeah, we'll talk about Pinot. I said, oh, look, I haven't really seen Pinots that inspire me to plant Pinot. And he says, oh, forget about that. You're on granite. Put in Gamay. And so, my journey for Gamay really was a bit later after I'd bought the property. And although it was one of the early varieties I planted, and it was a bit of a journey. And we bought a few, French Beaujolais and had a bit of a look at. But at that stage, we were importing all these Nouveau styles that really probably not styles that I wanted to go down.
Yes.
And if you can imagine, in the first Gamay vintage was 1990. Trying to go to Melbourne and sell Gamay of an unknown vineyard after the collapse or the financial collapse that happened there. So it wasn't, it was difficult, but we had great people like, I'm sure before your time, Don Levy Fitzpatrick from the Dogs Bar and ended up in the George. He was a passionate restaurateur and he just, loved it and, got me going and,
Is there many others doing Gamay within Beechworth?
Yeah, look, there is Pennyweight.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
There's also Domenica, have got put Gamay in, and of course Sentio, Chris Catlow, who's doing a Gamay. So it's become the Gamay capital.
Well, we compared it to a Village from Beaujolais, is that right?
Yeah.
And this was a clear standout. Well, what is it that you're picking up?
On the nose is where it really kind of just really jumps out. Red berry violets, but on the palate really provides that really structure that comes through. It's not like a wishy-washy Beaujolais Nouveau type of style of wine. It's actually got a bit of structure there that could kind of pair with a lot more kind of food-friendly type of wine. But the tannins on it is like so fine as well. It's structured, it's delicious, it's fragrant. Yeah.
And I think that what I remember is that, because of the style, it's meant to be a bubblegum kind of scent and taste that's coming through. And that's not what comes through this Gamay, which is great. It's got its own identity.
Yeah, I've have played around probably twice. I've done a small batch of carbonic maceration. Talking about bubblegum, it was so bubblegummy. So, and look, I will trial it again because the guys last year, but I didn't have that big a crop last year. It was a nice crop, but the guys last year were saying, why don't we do a bit of carbonic maceration and try it again? And I said, okay. But we didn't. So if they ask again this year and we've got a bit of spare, we'll do it.
I'm getting a really good sense of experimentation from you, which is interesting because you've had your time here and you could be wedded down to tradition, but it sounds like continuously challenging yourself, trialing new things is important to you, which is great. I kind of think about the future and a lot of discussion around climate change, which you'd mentioned and you touched on. I want to read something that it was on the Young Gun of Wine article where you said, climate change is our biggest challenge. It would be easy to change varieties or find another site. The big challenge is to be proactive in slowing the climate crisis. And we've had a chat to a few other winemakers, and their approach has been, we need to hunt for and try alternate and emerging varieties to handle the changing climate. You've got a bit of a different slant there. What is it that you're doing to kind of slow down climate change and be proactive in that space?
Yeah, well, we have got a foot in both camps because we have put the Grenache, Grenache Shiraz Mourvedre in on a hillside. Yeah. But generally, look, we certainly are tree planters. We've put around all the new vineyards. We've got a lot of shrubbery and stuff for insects and stuff. The soil, we look after the soil as to try and, like they're talking about this carbon capturing of the soil, and I don't think they're ever going to sort that out. And sometimes when they sort those things out, people sort of jump on the bandwagon and make money when they shouldn't out of it. But really, to capture carbon, you need, good management of soil. You need microbes. You need to be creating humus, and humus is the most important thing, and so that's what we do. Some years we probably lose a little bit of soil structure when it's wet, and we can't help that. If we want a crop, we've got to be on the ground, put a spray out, or trimming or something. The other things, like we make our own fuel. We've done that for years and years. So we make all diesel, all our farm equipment run except for one ute. runs on fish and chip oil. So I really encourage people to eat deep fried food. It's important for me.
Yeah.
So look, we do things. I've been having a go at, not successfully, at a little bit of a biochar, but we do composting. We do a huge compost. All our canes that we prune, we process them, and make compost and put them back in. So
what's humus? Sorry, I'm thinking hummus, the Lebanese.
No,
What is humus?
Oh, it tastes really as good as hummus.
What's that?
Humus is when you get soil. It's like it's this beautiful, like really good clay or compost, not clay. It's like compost. It sort of goes through a process where humus, it can take as much water as its weight. It just holds onto water. And it's really a combination of microbes, of soil particles, of air, and it makes this almost like a plasticine in the soil. It's an organic matter, but it's almost like a super organic matter. And you don't have to be biodynamic to have humus. You can make it many ways, but you have to have good soil. You have to have microbes. You do have to have organic matter that's breaking down. And really, the humus is probably the final point and the best point of organic matter breaking down. So it's a combination of microbes, and the microbes hold in all the nutrients you want. And the white feeder roots, I'm getting pretty technical, sorry. Feeder roots go into the humus. The roots feed the microbes get into the humus and feed back the roots.
Got it. I'm not dipping my Lebanese bread into that, but it sounds like it's... And so we've got another wine here, and again, one that we've got but haven't tried yet. It's the 2022 Cabernet Sauvignon we've got Cabernet Franc and Merlot in there as well.
I've heard a lot about this one. Last year I came through, sold out. So this will be the first time that I'm going to try this one. But do tell us a bit about this one.
Well, like everything, it's got more varieties than that in it. It has Malbec, Petit Verdot, and some Carmenere in it.
Why don't you list that on the label? Just make it too long?
You do say I experiment a lot. I think I've been there too long, and I don't want to change the labels. Like, even like the labels are wet glue. Who uses wet glue labels? I reckon there's only a couple of silly ones in Beechworth that use wet glue labels, and I'm one of them.
I didn't know the difference. What's the difference between wet glue and others?
Oh, you have a machine that puts glue on the back. Well, the good thing, if you really want to recycle or reuse bottles, wet glue is fantastic because, you don't, the label will fall off. You stick that in an ice bucket and, shake it around, you eventually lose the label.
Okay.
But you have to shake it around a bit. I've got it.
But there's a reason why you use it, which is exactly what you explained. Yeah. So this blend, how did it come about?
Because of Bordeaux. I've probably only ever drank I don't think I could ever afford the real expensive Bordeaux, but we did a trip. On our trip, we did go to Bordeaux and really had a good time, and were well looked after by a New Zealand lady there was working there, and really loved the wines. Yeah. And so we thought, and at that stage when we planted, when we're looking at the varieties, a student of Richard Smart had done a project on Cabernet and said, Beechworth is one of these spots where we should be looking at Cabernet. Now, he didn't take into account that Cabernet has lost flavour, or I suppose favour a little bit nowadays.
Yes.
But so we don't produce a lot of this. But I do love making this wine. So I probably make it for myself. It ages, even though it's not this, it's more of the, I suppose, elegant style. I don't know if I like to use that word, but elegant style of Cabernet. It ages really well.
As you were talking, I saw Trent shaking his head in a good way, I think, because that means there's a reaction. What is it that you're picking up?
Oh, it's just one of those ones that's so much going on that it just kind of just blows you away. Like, on the nose, I put down like kind of blackberry and this kind of cooked rhubarb that kind of really comes through on the nose. And then bit of spice at the back. The fruit really just shines right through. And the tannins, again, super fine structure with oak more as a kind of a supporting factor rather than than a primary actor, I guess, in this one. So I think like a great wine, complex wine as well, that will just improve with time. And yeah, first impressions, first time having it, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Yeah.
I'm worried because Chardonnay was at the top of my list. I hadn't tried this one.
Yeah.
This might take the top in my own mind. It's the smell and it's the tannins and then it's the complexity all throughout. But it's the elegance. Elegance is the word, and I feel like maybe it's part of the region, part of the elevation that contributes to that. Obviously, your winemaking skills as well.
Oh yeah, and the soil. Yeah, I probably always look at myself as a grape grower, not so much as the winemaker. I think, yeah, because the wines really, you only have to look after them. They do all the work.
You're like the caretaker, right?
Yeah, that's a good way of looking on them. Just really the caretaker. I might sort of direct something one way or the other.
Yeah.
But really, it's if you do all the work in the vineyard, you've got good fruit, the job's pretty easy.
Yeah.
People ask me to make wine for them, and I say, oh no, I only know how to make wine for myself, for my fruit.
Yeah.
I know how to make my fruit. I know what I don't have to do, which is more important than what you have to do. I know what I don't have to do, and that's fantastic.
You mentioned before around kind of old ways, wet glue. The other thing I noticed around is you're still using corks. Is that is that by choice?
It is by choice. I've done trials. I have done trials. So I've done screw cap trials, and I have done just on two varieties. I've done two varieties, one variety on screw cap, and I've done a couple of diam trials as well. We're always looking at things.
Yeah.
It's hard to change, and look, it is difficult with cork. People probably aren't as accepting of cork anymore. But I always say there's two things you never skimp on in the wine industry, and we've always said that right from the start. You buy the best quality cork that will suit your wine, and you buy the best quality barrel that will suit your wine.
I guess it's the reason why you're able to produce such great wines, and I'm curious how comfortable you are with this, like. You and your winery and your wines have been labelled as cult wines. And I'll read a quote from Mike Benny. Says he was talking about the Sauvignon Blanc Semillon, one of Australia's great wines. For you, I don't know how much the recognition matters. Well, what's been the proudest moment
I'll
for you?
have to pay Mike Benny a bit more.
Looking back on all of the years, what's been the proudest moment?
Oh, look, I don't like it. I'm really pleased and honoured that so many people like the wine, and I've been embarrassed that they have to pay so much for it. But really, I look back, I'm farming, and that's what I always wanted to do, and I pinch myself every now and then and say, well, when you get a bit frustrated and that and things, you just got to pinch yourself and say, well, isn't this lovely? I can look around, there's trees there, and I'm really proud and pleased and honoured, but I'm happy digging a hole and putting a post in.
The vineyard is your happy place.
It is, yeah. The vineyard's my happy place.
Yeah. I know
what I'm doing there.
I just want to also just touch on, I think you've had Sorrenberg for about 30 years now.
Yeah, 40 years.
40 years.
40 years this year.
So in reflection, like talking to like a younger Barry, like what would you say to him kind of starting off with Sorrenberg?
Work as hard as you did. Like I look back, everyone said you're mad, but no, you've got to work hard. And if you look at any of the successful ones, certainly around Beechworth and that, they've worked hard, really hard to do it. Get in, do the work, be diligent at the right time, and don't spend too much. That's the other thing I always say. If you can fix it, fix it.
Spend wisely.
Yeah, spend wisely. Fix it if you can. Spend the money where it needs to be. Cork, barrels. But
absolutely. And if we think about the future and where it's going with Sorrenberg and the goals, we've got someone waiting patiently in the background that we want to introduce.
You're still there. I'm glad I didn't say anything about you.
Barry, do you want to do a quick introduction to who's been waiting, the secret guest?
Okay. Yeah, the secret guest is my daughter-in-law. We are looking at the succession planning, and probably this year's is the start of it. Although I have had Cara, who you've all probably been dealing with. She's been working for us for a while, but this year we can welcome back Bernard, and Julia's been working for me for a while too, my daughter-in-law, but Bernard and Julia are coming and joining us, so that maybe I can take a bit more time off, which will be good. And so, Julie, you want to come forward?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
show. And look, Bernard was probably the inspiration for the Grenache. The Bindara block, which is down further, is quite a nice block, but it's got a pretty tough hill there that's got a lot of rock on it.
It's very windy too.
Very windy
Very
site,
windy.
yeah. And look, he looked at it and said, well, why don't we try a bit of Grenache and Matara or Mourvedre and Shiraz up there. And so he instigated it.
Right.
I sort of said to him, well, I wasn't really going to plant that block. I just wanted to, because we actually live up there now. We've moved from this nice house. We've live a very solitary life in a small house.
It's a beautiful house.
I know, it's nice, small, simple, very, very simple house. But anyway, so and that's where the Grenache came. And so they've me being a bit stubborn with 4 varieties is enough for the Sorrenberg label, they've set their own label up as the Juliard and are doing the GSM, the Grenache Shiraz Mourvedre, which has got Carignan
Cinsault.
and Cinsault, yes.
Yep.
In it. So
Yeah, I think you also forgot to say your favourite daughter-in-law as well. That was part of the introduction, right?
what was her name?
Very. I'm going to stay very well behaved.
Yes.
Wait till the cameras aren't rolling. No, I'm kidding. No. It's been pretty lucky, I think. Being able to just listen to this interview with Barry has been really special, I think. And I think that's a really good, learning from Barry.
Yeah.
Not even just being a daughter-in-law, working for him or with him as well. He's very
I am your boss, so be careful.
I know.
Yeah. That's why she's being selective.
I know. I'm just
Think about it.
Thinking quite hard about it. No, he's a great person to learn from. And like he said, we're in the vineyard.
Yeah.
We're in it.
Yeah.
He involves us in a lot of stuff. And, you have interesting people work in the vineyard. with us.
Great
So
people work in the vineyard.
That's a lot of fun. And you can ask any question and there's no hesitation. There's no such thing as a stupid question.
It does feel like it's a legacy to kind of take on, but no pressure.
That's what the key is.
It's hard for me to let go, but I'm happy to. But
Well, you
it's
mentioned
the German in me that
it's very structured.
It's
very structured. And
But you said before, apparently you're planning on going holiday. I don't think that's going to
No,
happen. He
I
keeps
know, I
saying
will.
he's going to step back. Not that we're going to make him keep working.
Yeah.
He'll
I know. Well,
eventually. Yeah, you should.
but it's funny how years ago, if we look at the kids, like I think Cara, when she was. Oh, she was probably told us 14 or 15. She used to do the leaf work, her and her friend, and her friend's scarred for life. She'll never go near a
never
vineyard.
work.
And I thought Cara was a bit the same. She couldn't get out of the place quick enough. Yet she came back. And I thought, the same as Bernard.
Well, Bernard never left. He just went to different vineyards.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, as a kid, he wasn't that interested in it. It was working for your dad. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But then,
I don't know. Leaf work sounds like it's fun, but maybe
We'll get you in one vintage.
There's a bit needs to be done out
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about the future and the label here. If we show this to the camera, it's a 2023 GSM from Juliard Wines. And did you want to talk a bit about the story or tasting about this?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, like Barry said, Bernard really started a passion on looking into Grenache. We did a lot of tastings. We'd all get different, and we just went on this trajectory of Grenache. It just became his blinkers were on, and he wanted to do Grenache. And Barry had some space, so
Yeah.
and then they did a lot. It was a lot of conversation around it, and it was a lot to do with climate, and what would work with the future of what is happening environmentally and all that sort of thing. And Grenache seems to do really well in a very cool climate and also in a very hot climate. So with the world the way it is, everything's just up and down, hot, cold, and I think it's all experimental. I think.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
And we did start off as bush vines until I spat the dummy.
Well, it was getting in the way of the tractor, and it was
I
it
hate
was too
breaking
messy.
canes,
It
yes.
was getting quite messy with the bush grown. So the vines would come out into the vineyard, and you'd get the tractor through and it'd get stuck, and you'd be ripping stuff, and it was just So it was so we ended up trellising, but
And going back to, we were talking about humus. I hate to go backwards, but the other thing I didn't say is irrigation. Really, it's extravagant. It's extravagant to irrigate vineyards, I always say.
Yeah.
So water's so precious. So we do spend a lot of time making sure humus is one of the things you want in your soil. We've got Rhino block, which is 2 acres, completely unirrigated. Here at Sorrenberg, we've got 2 acres of the 6 acres are unirrigated. The others haven't been irrigated for years, but we've had some good years. And Bindara's the same. I think I've got 1 megalitre of water only, and so we really have to be careful of if we need water, where we put it, because we haven't got. And that's a good thing, just to respect that water a bit.
It feels like you can grow anything here. Like I was looking at like your website. You're growing like from Malbecs to Petit Verdot to Cabernet to Cinsault, Mourvèdre, Gamay, Malbec, Chardonnay, everything.
All an experiment.
Yeah,
yeah,
and different aspects. The like that is a really windy site. The Grenache is right on a bone of a hill. Really sort of right up and.
But it seems to enjoy the wind.
Yeah,
we get great crop. We get. We haven't really had any disease because it keeps it nice and dry, and so it's sort of worked out.
Yeah,
I think the cool climate of the GSM works really well. I think it's, it doesn't overpower you with the fruit. You can still get the elements of that soil and the earthiness, but it's elegant is the way I'd put it, and the tannins are beautiful. Yeah,
elegant, and the acid really jumps out for me on this one. The GSM, it's not like
smell.
The Barossa GSMs. It's definitely more lighter, fresher type of GSM.
It's majority 1-year-old fruit. Like first crop.
First crop.
Wow.
Yeah.
First crop fruit.
First crop, which was really exciting because you do think, you think first crop you might be quite green, quite young, but it still has this beautiful depth to it, I suppose, for first crop.
Feels like you're kind of carrying on that legacy in terms of experimentation, innovation as well.
Well, I'm learning. I'm adapting.
From the master.
Yeah.
I'm adapting to because I was brought up.
No one else will listen to me, so I had to go to my daughter and listen to me.
Yeah, that's true. Well, actually, you do pay me, but no, but it's been fantastic. I think I've developed a passion for biodiversity as well. It's something that I wasn't really involved in. I never really sort of knew what really goes into making wine or being a fruit grower and working with soil, working with vines, and really, it's a fantastic way to learn, being sort of forced into it by marriage. But but
it's a good thing to be forced into.
It's been really good. I'm very lucky, and we've got a great life, and we get to drink great wine, and talking about wine is such a great topic. I mean,
and this is another wine we get to talk about. So this is a 2021 Shiraz, and so Shiraz is grown in this area as well?
Yeah, this Shiraz we actually picked from another vineyard in Beechworth originally because it wasn't ready yet, but we have got Shiraz planted down at Bindara. But originally the first wine we ever made was a Shiraz in 2018 or 2019. We made it in our house in Hillsville in the garage. It was part Yarra Valley Shiraz and part Beechworth Shiraz. That was really fun. Our neighbours had no idea what was going on. And we originally were just going to make it for our wedding. We thought we'd make some wine for our wedding, and then obviously Bernard's a winemaker, and we thought, why don't we actually slap a label on it and do something. So and then that's sort of where it came from, and Bernard wasn't sure what exactly was happening coming back here or if we were going to stay in the Yarra Valley. We weren't, so we thought, we'll do a label for a little while and have a bit of fun with it, and now we ended up moving back here.
So you said a little while. So what's happening with the Juliard label, though? Is that continuing?
I think it's continuing. We talk about it quite a bit. We really enjoy doing it. I think we'll definitely be continuing it. We'll be getting a Chardonnay next year, hopefully. And no, Juliard's definitely something we're passionate about. We really enjoy doing something that's our own. I think it's nice to still have something that's ours, as well as working for Sorrenberg or with Sorrenberg.
Bernard must really love you after the label, Julia.
Well, it's a portmanteau of our names, but unfortunately mine snuck the whole way in.
Was it called Bernard?
Well, we thought about Burnleyer, but it didn't have quite a nicer ring to it. The Burner came up with a name, which is very nice. But I at first thought, oh gosh, it sounds too much like it's just about me.
I thought about was it a New York Ballet School or something like that.
That's what a lot of people, a few people have sort of said and going, I didn't know you were into ballet. Definitely not. I'm more of a tractor kind of girl than the ballet. So yeah. No, Juliard's definitely something we'll continue. We do really enjoy Shiraz. We find it a really fun sort of wine to experiment with. It's so different to what it's traditionally known for in Australia. Our Shiraz, we find it's, a bit lighter, a bit more, I guess, not entry-level Shiraz, but it's something that I find it's a barbecue wine. It's a lot of people can enjoy it. It's not that big, earthy, powerful, punchy.
Again, elegant comes to mind. And the first thing in smelling it is the bouquet that's really quite fragrant there. And then the tannins, it's quite a nice feel in the mouth.
Yeah, it's all very kind of unoffensive, I guess. It's not something that you do need a steak. It's something you can drink by itself. Very, very friendly type of wine.
Very friendly type of wine. And that's what we want. We want to make wines that we want to drink, that we want to share with people as well. And I think that's the same with Barry and Sorrenberg is you want people to enjoy it with you. Yeah, not just make any wine and be done with it.
Almost feels like Juliard is the one where you kind of experiment and have some bit of fun with, and then it kind of grows into the Sorrenberg.
And then it sort of sneaks in. Yeah. No, it's definitely it's been a lot of fun. But like I said at the beginning, I'm probably not the person to be here.
No one else would come.
It should be Bernard and Cara, but unfortunately they're not here today. Cara's on holiday and Bern's painting our house.
Obviously, there's only one person that's very dedicated to the cause. Then
that's right.
I asked Barry a bit earlier what's his proudest moment. It's very hard as someone reflecting on your own thing. If you look back on his achievements and what you've learned from him, what are you proud of from Barry?
That's an interesting question because when I was listening before, I was wondering what he was going to say.
I didn't know what I was going to say.
But it would probably, I think it's a hard one because it's a very, it makes me feel, not emotional, I'm going to cry, but it makes you feel, I do feel very proud to be a part of this and that Barry allows that, not just from me, but from everybody. He will allow anyone in and take care of them, nurture them, help them. So I think I'm just proud of Barry. His patience is really quite amazing.
Oh, thanks, Julia. You can have a pay increase.
And that's what this is all about.
But I think
I've been conned.
And we're done. No, but it is patience in the vineyard, patience with people learning new skills. Everyone does have their own way of doing things. And we've picked it up when I walk through a row and I go, I bet Dane pruned this, because you can tell there's a finesse to it that people do. And I think Barry's patience is very, I admire it a lot.
Yeah.
And he's a great father-in-law. He's a great pa, he's a great dad.
Okay, Julia, that's enough.
Yeah, you had to say that.
I must say, my father always said, when you get towards the end of your life, not that I'm dead yet, but when you get towards the end of your life, just make sure you've done more good than harm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you definitely have done a lot.
Oh, no, that's what I'm pleased with. I think I've done more good than harm.
Well, you definitely have, yeah.
Absolutely. And so we're probably at the tail end of the interview. Thank you for having you both on.
That's all right.
Barry, any last messages for our listeners? Anything you want to talk about in terms of Sorrenberg, Beechworth?
I look back and think, how Beechworth was once a great wine industry. We had a great wine industry many, many years ago before phylloxera and economic things did sort of destroy the industry, or basically they pulled out the vines. And it's just great to see the region come back. And there's such a diverse of varieties and in the Beechworth wine region we go from right down to about 350 metres elevation right up to Stanley, which is where Smolson Browns are. What are they? About 600, 700 probably about 800 metres, 700 to 800 metres. So we've got a great diverse of different varieties we can find. So it is a really interesting area, and within that we've got little microclimates, and we're all and really for young people, look, whether it's growing grapes or growing fruit, it's great to be able to produce something and someone enjoys it. I just feel in the wine industry we're lucky because we have a label on it and everyone knows, because no one ever eats an apple. Well, not many people eat an apple and say, wonder where that comes from. Wow, that's good. And they have a couple of people with microphones talking about it and putting it on a podcast. I wish they would on apples, because then the apple growers would get more recognition. So anyway, but yeah, it's been wonderful for me. And
that might be another podcast we start up.
Apples, yes, that's right.
Any last reflections that you had?
I think it's just been such an enjoyable chat with Barry. It's been fascinating, also empowered in terms of hearing his story, in terms of where it came from. But one thing that can really come through is around experimentation and innovation. Like they're always kind of pushing for different grape varieties, different styles, biodynamic, and the strive to be better and better and better. And interesting to see how that kind of then carries on now to the passing the baton on to the next generation, how that kind of really flows through. So yeah, that's my kind of takeaways.
Yeah, I think about our drive in here. We were driving through, and I thought in my mind, we're in the wrong direction because this looks like a suburban area. How can there be great wines coming out of this area? And we pulled up, and we've tasted the wines here, and to me, that kind of my reflection on you, Barry, is you're very humble. You're not there to show things. And out of that, you can produce great things. And I think that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing your time here. Thank you for sharing these wines with us. We're very honored and privileged to have it. To everyone out there, definitely try Sorrenberg wines. Definitely visit Beechworth. Thank you both for having us on again.
Thank you.
As we like to say here, drink more, try more, learn more. Thanks all.